Rembrandt was a very curious man. A curious man and a person not apparently not so easy to deal with for his contemporaries, pure reform from the Netherlands. And in fact, he spent some of his time, apparently even lived some of his time in the ghetto of Amsterdam. The ghetto, in the place where Jewish lived there. Not only, but he also spent quite some time at one of his friends, a Dutch collector, having Oriental paintings, Oriental works, and he was able to copy them and to recreate these Oriental atmospheres also in his own paintings. Let's look at one or the other, but what is interesting here is that his knowledge of different culture was such that he was able to use elements of Orientalism when appropriate, and elements of culture that is still developing, and for example in Judaism, in the correct way. Let's look, for example, at a very famous painting in which Rembrandt depicts a situation in which Balthasar is given the prophecy that his reign is about to finish. Words appear in the darkness. There are words that not even in Hebrew, they're written in Aramaic, an old language that was practically not in use there at that time, but also now. And it is known mostly to scholars from Talmudic schools. These words appear absolutely correct. There is no mistake in the way that they are spelled there. They are perfect, which is quite unusual. And it's also unusual the fact that he decided to focus on such an event, such a situation, which is most unlikely in Western art. But what is strange here, if you want, is that this king appears there with a big hat, like say a turban. Clearly, at this time, we are talking about of a king of Babylon. He was obviously not using a turban at the time. But this is his message of talking about the East, the Middle East, at those times. This is his way of saying, I'm talking about a past, not talking about the present. And we can see this because if we look at other pictures, other paintings, relating also to the Jewish culture, let's say from the Torah, from the culture that he can say refers to a past, here is again the turban. You can see the turban in Shaul and Saul and David, and in a lot of different paintings that he prepared on the Torah itself. On the contrary, when he wanted to represent the Jewish culture as it was at his time, he had no problem, and we have a quite large number of paintings in which with referring to Talmudists, to Jewish persons, and there you don't find any turban there. On the contrary, it is extremely realistic. All this is disappearing. So he is able to show what is Orientalism, false Orientalism, but also a need to say this is a past and this is a present. And his position is so striking that seems that in many cases, when he wants to represent a Jesus, he took a Jewish model. So far he was able to go. The same attitude he has also for Oriental paintings. There is one famous painting by Rembrandt, it's called The Two Negroes, in which, yes, there is a real representation of these two men with extremely dark faces, even too much, and also with a very, very poor dress. Again, talking about the topos, not about necessarily something that is really there. On the other hand, when you see his sketches taken from his Dutch collectors' works, from Oriental works, there you find them totally different. Really related to the way that they were dressing, really related to the way that they were behaving. So Rembrandt was such a curious person that he was able to make a difference between what was a topos, and this is something that you can see in all the others, or in many other painters of his time and other times when they have to talk about and also create an artwork that has to do with Orientalism. And another thing is the true stuff, when he wants to show what is the real culture of that area. Just for example, we can think about Orientalism in the 19th century. There again, you find a lot of personalities turbulent. You can say, yes, in that period, turbulent was in use. But again, most of the persons they may not have on their head that hat. But the painters, using a topos, needed to show this, and doing this showed also that they have a very distant attitude towards this culture. At Rembrandt, this is not the case. When he was commissioned to make an official Orientalist picture, he was able to do so. But when he wanted to do something that was real, in his realism, he had also all the tools to do that. This interest in more than one culture is something that is peculiar in Rembrandt and makes him so special for our museum.